Now, on November the 1st, the mayor Carlos Manzo of Urucan in Michoacan got assassinated. He was shot 5 times in public. And this is a mayor that was speaking out against crime. He was talking against the cartels. So it's just another number in the dozens of mayors that were assassinated recently in Mexico. And so I ask you a genuine question. Would it be surprising if such an event actually got people on the streets? If someone told you, back in 1950, there was a mayor assassinated after a string of murders, and people got upset that they got out to protest. Like, the reason that I'm asking this question is because I noticed that on social media, everyone is saying, no, wait, this is the alt-right. Like, these are the Nazis. The Nazis are the only group in Mexico that seem to be upset because of the cartels. Because otherwise, there are no problems in Mexico. Everyone is doing a good job. All the politicians are working as intended. And all societies on planet Earth are pretty much having the Mexican system. Like, this is normality, you know? Having mayors assassinated, it's no big deal. It has happened in the past. It will probably happen in the future. Literally, the only people that are upset and butthurt about this have to be the alt-right. And all of these young people that are going out to protest, they're obviously indoctrinated. This is a CIA plot. It's foreign interference. Mexican people just don't behave like that. Like, when usually they see their politicians getting shot in the streets, they respond with calm and composure. So if you're upset in any way seeing public servants getting assassinated, it's either because you're a CIA plant, a far-right individual, a Nazi, and you're protesting against a president that's the most beloved president in recent history. At least this is what the government is saying, and this is what some detractors on social media are saying. As you can see here, they're saying that the Straw Hat fans are CIA-backed. Like, look at this one. Actively right-wing anti-Semitic. So, again, I want you to understand this, because this is just mind-blowing to me. If you see the person you voted for, the individual you like, and he's your mayor, and he talks against crime, and you're upset that he got shot, so you're going out to protest, that's anti-Semitic behavior. Can anyone in Mexico, like, explain this chain of thought to me? Like, can you try to help me through this? Because I'm really struggling. But anyway, right, so it's actively right-wing, anti-Semitic, Nazi 50-year-olds using the straw hat flag in their protests, which they're calling Mexico Gen Z protests. The name, the Mexico Gen Z protests, to me, as a person that engages in critical thinking, means that the majority of people at the protest are Gen Z. Like, it's a protest where you will encounter a lot of young people. It doesn't mean that within that crowd, there will be, like, absolutely not a single individual that happens to be a Nazi, or they happen to be a communist, or they're a 50-year-old, or, right? Like, that's how my mind operates, but, like, apparently I need an update to my OS. Like, I'm not thinking properly. I'm not thinking like a progressive. But anyway, as you guys can see, there is a lot of accusations of whether or not the protests are grassroots. Like, are people legitimately upset that their community leaders are getting shot? Or is this people from the outside trying to stir the pot? Because, like, we know Mexicans don't behave like this, right? Like, in Mexico, when you have a political assassination, like, most people just take it. And in Mexico, no one speaks against crime, no one speaks against cartels, right? So, must be NGOs and foreign activists and the CIA. But okay, fine. You know what? Let's actually explore the talking point. Are the protesters grassroots, or are they being paid for? Well, if you want to join me at the adult table, and you don't want to sit over there at the kids table where morality is black and white and it's either or, here at the adult table we can discuss and understand that the world is very complex, especially in the world of social media. Like, on the surface, The protests are being called by a group branding itself as Generation Z Mexico, presenting as youth-led and non-partisan, with a 12-point reform about security, anti-corruption, recall referendum from Scheinenbaum, etc. And that mobilization happens mainly on social media, on X, on Facebook. However, while the organizers are actually Gen Z kids, from my knowledge, do not magically conjure professional graphics and paid ads. They do not magically conjure national coordination across dozens of cities. And obviously, they do not have saturation level hashtag and promotions. And so, is the protest legit? Or are forces behind the protest pushing it? Well, let's think like a billionaire for a second, or let's think like a politician. Let's say you happen to live in Mexico and you're against the current president's regime for various reasons. Like maybe your business could benefit if some other politician was in charge. Right? Like maybe your business would benefit if there was less crime. Maybe you actually have nepotism and relationships with other politicians from different parties. And you'd prefer if those politicians and parties were now in charge. Maybe you're a member of the cartel that is actually losing the turf war. And you don't like the fact that the current president is associated with your competition. For whatever reason, right, you just don't like the current establishment. Now, a mayor gets shot in a city, and people genuinely go out on the streets. Why on God's earth would you not fund that? Like when you see genuine grassroots movement, right, like you see actual people getting legitimately upset, and you have the money, right? Why wouldn't you just like use your resources in order to fund that and help those kids and be like, okay, well, I can buy some ads. I can actually push this message on social media. I can actually use my money in order to amplify their message. Does this mean that the protest is not grassroots? Like, no, it means that it follows the trend of almost every single modern protest. Right? Like there is a legitimate concern, like a legitimate simmering of the population that does not enjoy the fact that their mayors are getting assassinated, does not enjoy the fact that they're living under the cartels. And then there's an event which gets people on the street. And then you have like the people with money and interests to actually amplify that event. And so, no, it's not foreign backed, especially like I have seen no evidence of the United States using the CIA in order to push this, because like it would be wasted money for the United States. There's no reason. There legitimately are cartels in Mexico. There legitimately is resentment over that. People are legitimately terrified over the fact that they see their politicians assassinated. You don't need to put money on that. But within Mexico, yeah, there are probably billionaires and opposition leaders that would see this as their chance. I mean, again, position yourself into the shoes of the opposition. And imagine that you're doing nothing. You're like, oh, well, this is a grassroots protest. I'm not going to fund it. I'm not going to use my relations in order to amplify the message. I'm just going to sit there and do nothing. What type of politician would you be? Like, what type of community leader would you be if you do that? And then again, like, on the other side, is the government, like, not using bots on social media to crack down on the message? Like, let's get real. What type of government wouldn't? Like, even in Mexico, I don't believe that the government is that incompetent. Would the government not fund money into influencers and people that would talk against the protest and label it as a Nazi rally and far right and all that shit? Again, I don't think, like, the government is actually ran by imbeciles. I think it's ran by evil people that are positioning their financial interests above the people. But I'm 100% sure that the government is also funding bot farms. They're also funding talking heads and journalists that are going to slander and smear these protests. They're also going to use international influence by contacting their friends from other media outlets. You know, they can reach out to places like The Guardian or the BBC or whatever, because they have connections, right? They're the government. Of course they're going to do that. And on top of that, they can also use censorship. They can also use the police. They can also do other things that the protesters can't. And so the framing that's either or, right? Like if it's not 100% grassroots, then it doesn't count. If it's not 100% Gen Zers, then it doesn't count. If some rich person puts some money on it, then it doesn't count. Like, let's be honest, okay? Like, we live in a complex world. And at the end of the day, if you're a grassroots protest, you can't even stop these things from happening. Like, if I legitimately get upset because one of my mayors was shot and I go out to protest, and then I have George Soros pumping money into my protest and amplifying my reach and amplifying my message and whatnot, how can I stop that? Like what exactly can I do to say, no, I don't want this? It's like most of this money isn't actually going to the protesters on the street, right? Like they're going into PR companies so that they can make flags and logos and spread them around. They're going into bots in order to amplify the message. Sure, maybe there are like some actually paid agitators on the street, but you know what? I'm willing to bet like a lot of the Nazis, they're probably also working for the government. Because if I'm being protested against, like imagine if you have people coming to your house and protesting, and it's on the mainstream media, you know, people are exposing your corruption. Why not just hire like 5 or 6 individuals with swastikas so they can go into the protests and pretend that they're against you, and then have your journalist go there and film them and say, look, see, I'm being protested by Nazis. This is how it works. Like, people need to understand how the political system actually functions versus how it should function. Like, I know it's not the way things should be, but this is the actual world we lived in. This is how politics are actually being made. And they're being made by this because there's no other way that's better. At least we haven't figured it out. You know, people use what works. They don't use what should work. And so, I don't think the opposition or the CIA have assassinated the mayor of Michoacan, or whatever the name is. I think like that's a legitimate event that happened. I think that people are legitimately pissed off that in the last election, more than 24 of mayors have been assassinated. The whole democracy of Mexico is being placed in question, because if it happens at the mayor level, like why would they assume that it doesn't happen at the presidential level? It's like, okay, so like mayors are up for grabs, but like presidents are sacred, like the cartels would never, you know, like at a local level, completely different story. If it happened to like 1 or 2 or 3, yeah, sure, but like when it happens to dozens. And on top of that, like I'm pretty sure that people who live in Mexico, like they actually understand the subtitles and they understand the culture a little bit better. And so I tend to believe them. Anyway, I don't know how many people made it to the end of the video. I want to say that I'm actually disappointed on how many people look at things and they believe that the world is good or evil. They have this binary thinking. They fail to see complex systems or understand how power works. Like, for example, I see the Lotus Eater saying that these protesters are communists. Here's the thing, though. They may very well be. Usually what happens when you have a power struggle, and, like, let's say by some miracle, which I doubt, but, like, let's say by some miracle, you would have this president having to step down, and you have a legitimate power struggle in Mexico. That doesn't guarantee that people that are good are going to step up. Yeah, you can actually end up with a communist system. Or you can end up with a religious theocracy or whatever. You know, or you can end up with someone incompetent. It's possible. In fact, human history shows that this is actually the case. By replacing the current power, which deserves being replaced, like if they actually work with the cartels and they actually benefit criminals, then yeah, it deserves being replaced. But it also doesn't mean that it's not moral to protest against political assassinations. I mean, you can't just say, well, yeah, I mean, the next guy can be really bad, so, like, we're not going to say anything. Just let things the way they are, and... Anyway, let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.